All right, let's go ahead and get the property committee meeting for Thursday, March 9th, 2023 off to a start. With our, as we switch over a name tag, we do have a quorum this evening thank you very much, Vice Chair Johnston, for hopping in. Members present this evening, we have Vice Chair Soldner, Member Biles, and Member Johnston this evening. Thank you very much. Number 2 on our agenda this evening is the consent agenda. This is combining the minutes to approve from February 9th, our regular meeting that was not so much of a regular meeting, but a stand-up meeting since our February meeting was put off, as well as the approval of bills and transfers to the tune of $246,117.20. Do I have a motion on the floor to vote on the consent agenda? I have a motion from Member Biles. Do I have a second? Second from Vice Chair Soldner. Let's go ahead and vote here. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, the motion passes. That brings us to number 3. Do we have an appearance by a member of the public or county employees? Administrator Taylor.
We have had no requests this evening.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm sorry? All right. So do we need a moment to confer? Yes, so we did have a late request for comment. However, that person is actually going to be brought up when we get to the agenda item at my request, please. All right, excellent. So that brings us to number 4, departmental matters. We have Mr. Tim Doherty, our facilities manager director. Mr. Doherty, with no items to be presented for action, thank you for sharing the items for information in your monthly report. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I trust all of you have had opportunity to look at my report. Are there any questions? Or questions for last month? Is that legal to ask that?
I think it is legal to ask that, and
Okay.
One thing that occurred to me, it looks like we do still have quite a few things on the agenda or on the docket that have been put off because things are on back order or
Yes.
things are in a state of stall because of shipping concerns. I was just wondering if you could speak to, is there anything that is becoming problematic because of that, and how is the state of trying to get all of the equipment that you need to be able to do your roles?
I can address under the Government Center heading, the replacement VAV coils. I did make another stab at finding out the status just this afternoon. I don't have an update at that, but those were originally 10 days out. It's becoming almost 6 weeks now. So the other thing is let's see, way on down here, the building, the lift station pump is, I had something there about ordered them, and one of them did show up this week. So looking further ahead at the rest of this, I don't know of anything else that be of concern as far as ordering at this time, other than the juvenile detention center. We're still holding out on a circuit board there, and it's supposed to be in mid-March.
thank you for the updates, and thank you for hanging in there with some of the supply chain challenges. I know that could probably be pretty challenging to try to get the job done. So thank you to you and your team. It looks like you've got a pretty lengthy list that you've really been going through and taking care of for us.
Thank you. The only other thing I can comment on is the chiller project status. That has picked up just this week. And so we're trying to wrap that up at the health department and JDC and the nursing home.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? Yeah, Member Johnston.
Thank you. I noticed that with the Mechanic 2 position that you're scheduling the third interview. Do you have any idea when you hope to kind of be able to make that decision? and make
Actually,
an
last
offer?
Friday, that person backed out on me. So
Okay. So now you've got the two to choose from?
now I got two to choose from. And rumor has it I have a third one, but I haven't got the check on it yet.
Okay.
A new third one,
A new third. Okay.
yes.
All right. I was just wondering if you had any idea when you might kind of are intending to fill that space.
Well, I'd like to give this third person the opportunity, of course, and look at that resume before we make a decision. So we've interviewed two. The original third person backed out last Friday, and so now I understand I have another one sitting there for my review. So
Okay. Thank you.
hopefully, yep, this month.
Hopefully it's not. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Doherty. No other comments or questions? We will move on to Departmental Matters 4B, and this is where we get to speak with our Parks and Recreations Department. Welcoming today, we've got Mr. Brad Wood, who is our interim director of Parks and Recreations. Thank you very much for being here with us. And thank you for all of the interim work that you have been doing in Mr. Steffa's absence. So we've got 3 items to be presented for action on this one. So item number 1A, request approval of an agreement with Dave Screefs, Wildlife Services. Might I have a motion on the floor to put this one out for conversation? I have a motion from Member Biles. May I have a second? The second from Vice Chair Soldner. Comments or questions directed to you first, Mr. Wood?
Do you guys have questions? I'm sorry.
Do we have any additional information to be shared regarding this action item?
Not really any additional information. I think the memo is pretty clear on what we're looking to achieve with the Wildlife Service contract. It is more or less a specific area that I noted in the memo. It is Jones's Pond, which is located within the campground. We have recreation area, campsites, playground equipment, shower buildings, and outhouses that are very near to the trees that are being damaged by the beavers. So that's our main concern. It's actually our only concern with the beavers right now.
Okay. About how many beavers are we talking or
So in this
anticipating for the?
Specific area,
process.
I do not know for sure.
Yeah.
We're hoping to find out with maybe services with the contract with the Screefs Wildlife Services. I would estimate it's not a huge amount, maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3. I don't know for sure. I can't answer that 100%.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have comments or questions, or at this juncture, shall I? We do have, oh, yeah, Member Biles?
I just want to make sure I'm reading it correctly. So it's $350 to capture and remove, but then it's an additional $350 to translocate?
If we translocate, it would be additional, yes.
Thank you.
And if I might ask, I noticed in the contract that there are a lot of variables that are at an if status. So if we can translocate the beavers, is there anything in the interactions with the Screefs Wildlife Service that says we will do this, or we can ask that they will translocate beavers versus any other kind of options that exist?
Can I take a first stab at this? So it's my understanding that beavers are federally protected, and any service that you bring in to remove them from an area where they're becoming a nuisance has to follow some strict IDNR or
IDNR. yep,
IDNR regulations. Um, The difficulty with this, I believe that the contract you have before you is willing and able to relocate beavers. The difficulty is finding a location that will accept those, and that would be the responsibility of McLean County, the parks, to find those locations to relocate.
And
so-
there is a distance that they have to be relocated. So I think a minimum of 10 miles and maximum of 20? 70, thank you. I knew it was in here somewhere. So yeah, there is a distance, so we would have to arrange that.
Okay, so that's not a contractual, so the contractual obligation is on our behalf to arrange and locate those. With this one, it just seemed like there were a lot of pieces that, that at least I had lots of questions on, trying to understand exactly how we can proceed. As an animal lover, and I'm sure a lot of other folks around the table here are animal lovers, we certainly want to find an option that's going to be advantageous for all, that will, as mentioned, beavers being protected, that are ultimately going to protect them and protect our park. If we don't have any, I would love, or I guess, let me buy this one back. I would love to perhaps get a little bit more information on some of the options, regarding where we can potentially translocate the beavers to, working with in the, the guidelines of what IDNR says, but also, looking at the best interest all the way around. I've invited the president of the Raccoon Ridge Board, Ms. Katie Bryan, here tonight to be able to share some additional information that might be helpful for folks in making said decision. Do I have the acceptable approval of the members of the board here this evening to be able to ask Ms. Bryan to come forward and share some information about translocation? Okay. Ms. Bryan, if you would go ahead and join us at one of the microphones. We'd love to hear a little bit more information about translocation options or anything that could be helpful for making this decision. Thank you.
All right, it looks like I'm on. Yes, my name is Katie Bryan. I work as a wildlife rehabber under the Raccoon Ridge Rehab, and the rehabber in charge of that is Judy Ellinger. She's been rehabbing for close to 30 years. She works very closely with another local rehabber in McLean County, Jenny Underwood, who has been rehabbing close to 45 years. So we have a lot of knowledge and experience in this area on how we rehab and potentially relocate or work with our native species on how we can coexist with them rather than removing them. I understand the safety concerns at the park. That's a very real concern, and we want to make sure everybody there is safe and cared for. So I've been doing some investigation, and I actually have reached out to Rachel Siegel, who is the president of the Illinois Beaver Alliance. And they work all over the state with different parks, waterways, residential areas to help learn how to coexist and reside with beavers in our area without having to endanger their natural habitat or cause distress to the residents who are using that area or guests or whoever at the park. So I kind of want to start with just breaking down the prices of what we're looking at here. So the translocation factor of rehabbing does follow Illinois trapping regulation, which for nuisance animals, they are allowed to use a leg hold trap, which you can all imagine a big old bear claw trap grabbing something's leg. A lot of times that'll deglove the animal. And while we may have trapped it alive, it will have to go through rehab. Beavers actually require up to 2 years of rehab to be relocated into a new area if injured. So the first thing we would have to do is find a rehab that is able to care for these beavers and potentially do translocation on that land, because you can't just introduce a population of animals into a brand new area. The current animal residents there get very volatile. There is actually, I've got some cited sources as well, it's actually a 70% chance a beaver will die when translocated if it is a healthy animal. This is not an injured animal. So we are really looking at the potential death of this beaver population. And I would love to propose maybe some other solutions. I know Member Lehman did say that we'd like to talk further about that. And so I actually just did some kind of cost basis analysis here on like, what can we really do to make this feasible for everybody? And the trapper fees were brought up. It's $350 to assess the location and see how many beavers there are and what needs to be done there, as well as another $350 per animal trapped. And then if we translocate, an additional $350 per animal. The simplest, quickest, best solution presented to me by the Illinois Beaver Alliance, and I actually reached out to the Federal Beaver Institute as well. We can buy hardwire hardware cloth with a higher gauge. Runs about $100 for 50 feet, and could cover probably all the trees in the area. I have also gotten volunteer, requests, volunteer assistance suggested to me from the Beaver Alliance that they would come down and help the park install those fencing around that area to protect both the trees. It's a permanent solution that grows with the trees. If you stake those fences into the ground, the beavers can't chew through the wire and knock the trees down. It will deter them to use other areas. And there's actually different plans throughout the state and federally for how to reseed the areas you want the beavers to eat in and move them over there rather than removing the beavers themselves. And again, I would like to advocate to not move those beavers because with most wildlife populations, a new family of those animals will move right in behind them. So we're not looking at a one-time removal of beavers. You're probably looking at every year having to pay to have beavers removed, where we could work with them in their habitat. And it might take some maintenance at the park to maintain the fences, but it would not take several $1,000s a year to remove beavers. The other point I did want to make is that if this were to pass, you actually, because these are federally protected animals, wouldn't be able to start any removal until the fall because right now it's kit season. So the beavers are in their lodges giving birth and raising their babies. So if you were to trap now, you are potentially causing orphaned animals that campers there are going to have baby beavers approaching them. That causes a whole other issue for the park and that whole ecosystem. So I just kind of wanted to demonstrate there, the further we get down, the more damage it is to our ecosystem, the park, and honestly the visitors to the park. Like the worst thing in the world is if you have a bunch of baby animals suddenly going up to the public and asking for help. Like that's not the situation we want, and that'll be very costly for the park and way more liability than a tree falling if an animal starts biting someone or people are handling wild animals they shouldn't be. And really the last point I wanted to make is just to really say how important beavers are to our ecosystem, our watersheds, and our waterways. We live in a very fertile part of the state, and a lot of the fertile nutrients in our land that we farm on is because of how beavers have helped to rebuild and spread the nutrients throughout these areas with the watersheds that they create. When we reduce that, we reduce the nutrients and the fertility of our land. So beavers really are very important to top to bottom to our ecosystem. And, I come from a place of wildlife rehab. I'm very passionate about animals, but also like just looking at, is this what we want the board to be spending their money on? Do we really want to trap, possibly injure, most likely kill these animals for a couple $100s that we could spend on fencing to fence that entire area with limited maintenance and a network of volunteers already offering to help with that work at the park? So I just really wanted to kind of sit down and offer those options up as well, and hope that the board will take all of that into consideration when voting on this measure.
Thank you very much for sharing your expertise. Administrator, please.
Do you know what the probability is that the beavers would move to another location in the park if their trees that they're finding so desirable are protected?
So when they build a lodge, that's pretty much their permanent residence, and most of that lodge is actually either underground or under the water. What we see on top that they're either damming with or just kind of covering that lodge covering with it's like an iceberg. We only see the very tip of it. So that's their permanent resident, but they will actually scour the banks within a mile of their entire territory looking for food. So I don't know that the pond itself is even a mile around. Yeah, so they definitely would. If we're going to block off one area, it is more likely the beavers are going to go find the easier food source. So they'll move themselves around in pursuit of food. The lodge itself, I don't even know if it's visible for you guys, if you know where it is. Yeah, so there probably would need to be more research done on how close to the campers that lodge actually is. But again, I would encourage bringing a wildlife rehabber in or a volunteer organization like one of these beaver organizations that could help us locate the lodge and provide further information on the specific area. And I do have all that contact info too if you need it.
I had a couple questions, and I think kind of bi-directional. Mostly concerning timing and what kind of arrangements might need to be made if we do take up the Illinois Beaver Association on their offer of assistance to help put this into place. I guess my question from an administrative standpoint is how quickly can we get it done? Of course, there are the financial pieces, and then from the Parks Department, if they feel like that might be an adequate solution, especially if the timing of it being kit season means that it's prohibitive of actually in doing the trapping right now, from a federal standpoint or from a protected animal standpoint. So those are kind of my questions, is because obviously we're getting ready to open the season, and I am worried, I'm concerned about what happens to our campers if there are trees falling, or so from that perspective, I guess I'd like to pursue the conversation a little bit more on, is this something that we could move on to protect the campers this year? I mean, because we're opening in a month.
Well, we have the campgrounds open now, the front section of the campgrounds, that's
Okay.
1 through 33 is currently open. That is one of the areas that the beavers are very close to. I would say, I guess, if timing's an issue and we were wanting to protect the campers in the immediate thing, I mean, we just cut down the trees that the beavers are working on so they won't fall down on their own or in a windstorm or something like that. So we could find the most problematic trees and the most, I guess, dangerous or potentially dangerous trees, and we could take care of those. I mean, the beaver damage is very evident, and you can tell the freshness, and you can tell how old they are. So sometimes they'll abandon a tree that they've been working on and go to another tree, so then you've got a tree that's potentially hazardous. But yeah, I mean, I think we could potentially find the most problematic trees and take those down, just like we do with a lot of other hazard trees.
Okay, and then from an administrative standpoint, what kind of agreements would need to be in place to utilize volunteer labor or to utilize their expertise in creating, what did you call it? Where you had the trees wrapped in a particular area?
I don't know
What-
that barrier.
Are you talking each individual tree, or are you doing like a one along the
No, it would be
shoreline?
each individual
So
tree.
hundreds of trees.
Yeah, volunteers.
Right. Oh,
We do have mechanisms in place for volunteer groups to come out and do projects for the park. So I know Brad is well-versed in having volunteer groups come out for a number of different activities to help beautify the park. We would need some sort of an agreement in place for addressing the issue. And so I could see a simple agreement being put in place with what resources are being provided by those associations and a timeline to completion. I don't see it being too difficult, but that would be something for our attorneys to review. My concern would be the timeliness, because especially if they're having babies right now and are hungry and feeding families, I'm guessing, I don't know what the behavior is during that season, but I could see mothers being much more aggressive with park visitors and with a playground nearby. I am concerned of the safety of the visitors. So I think it'd have to be quite timely.
Can I respond to that? Sorry, thank you. So beavers by nature are actually very docile, shy animals, and when they are with child and raising their kits, they leave their lodges very intermittently. They are not constantly out on the shore. They do not like human contact. They prefer to hide from humans. They actually, if they smell humans in an area, probably won't approach and even eat those trees. So there's, you know, a little bit of natural deterrent built in there. But again, I totally understand the situation here. We have campers actively in this area. So I wouldn't imagine beavers, it's not like a rabid animal that's going to come out and seek to attack someone. They're not territorial in that sense that they would go attack someone approaching. They would hide. Think of like a possum, where a possum isn't gonna like chase someone down, it's gonna play dead. So beavers, not that extreme. But yeah, these are not animals we're worried about like approaching children or attacking them, at least not adults. Orphaned animals, that's a whole other story because they lose their parents and go look for help and a lot of times find humans, so.
Would it be appropriate then to make a motion to postpone this for a month? I'd be willing to do that.
Yeah, I think that that sounds like a fabulous idea to be able to get some more information. If I could, we mentioned a concern with timeliness. Is that concern with timeliness going to be negatively impacted with a delay in the conversation?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Then,
I so move to postpone till our next meeting.
so we have a motion on the floor from Vice Chair Soldner to postpone to a date certain of our next Property Committee meeting. Do I have a second? A second from Member Biles. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those
Aye.
opposed? And the motion passes. We will pick this one back up, and perhaps we can get some clarity and some additional conversations and resources with the park, as well as the additional raccoon rehab and beaver association folks. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you all.
Thank you both for your time and your information and for the conversation. Let's go ahead and move along to departmental matters 4B. Oh, just kidding. Yep, nope, that's correct. 4B, 1B, request approval of a wastewater treatment plant operator contract. May I please have a motion to put this one on the floor for discussion? We have a motion from Member Biles. Do we have a second? A second from Member Johnston. Mr. Wood, do you have any additional information you'd like to share on this one?
Not really. This is just redoing a contract that we've previously had with a gentleman who's been our wastewater treatment plant operator for several years. This is just more or less formalizing the agreement.
Thank you very much. Comments or questions? Seeing none, let's put it to a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the motion passes. Thank you very much. Moving on to 4B, 1C, request approval of an ordinance by the McLean County Board amending Chapter 205 fees, Article 11, miscellaneous code fees in the McLean County Code. May I please have a motion to put this one on the floor? A motion by Vice Chair Soldner and a second by Member Biles. Back to you, Mr. Wood, for any additional information you'd like to share.
This is just a raise in our camping fee prices by $1 per night. And there's also, I'm not exactly sure how the firewood was originally at $2 a bundle, but it's been at $10 a bundle for as long as I've been out at the park, and that's almost 20 years. So somehow that was missed, so we got that corrected on here. And then, like I said, we did raise the camping fees $1. That's hopefully to generate a little bit more revenue with the campground.
Thank you very much, and thank you for pointing that one out. When I looked at it, I wondered if I have just been overpaying significantly for a long time. But thank you
I'm not sure
for,
how it was $2, but
that is a great catch. Now that we're all leveled up, comments or questions, please?
Will these trees that you're possibly going to take down because of the beavers, can we harvest those and turn those into firewood?
absolutely.
Okay, great. I guess there's a a silver lining to it.
I love an optimistic point of view. Great point. Other comments or questions? Seeing none, let's go ahead and put it to a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? And the motion passes. Mr. Wood, thank you very much. Might you have any other items to be presented for information via the monthly report or other items?
I do not. I'd be happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
I do have to say thank you again so very much for all of the work that you've been doing out at the park, especially stepping in the interim role. It seems like you really have taken quite a bit on, so thank you so much for really stepping up to the plate in Mr. Steffes' stead.
No problem. Thank you for that.
All right, moving right along. Oh, I'm so sorry. Member Johnston.
Just had a quick question after we had moved off the contract for the wildlife services. I did want to ask if you're going to go out and remove the trees that were damaged, what kind of, I mean, from a timeline perspective, like how quickly might we expect to see another damaged tree?
Overnight.
Like enough, significantly enough that it would be
Not,
dangerous? When, at one point?
it's hard to tell. I mean, we see trees that they're very, very fresh, but maybe weeks down the line, and they're still chewing on them. And then you'll see one day they'll just be down. So, I mean, I can't really tell. Sorry, I can't
Okay,
answer
no,
that question
that's fine.
exactly.
I was
But
just
they
trying to-
move very quickly, and they select trees, and then they get, I don't know if they get tired of it, they go to another tree. But I would say damaged or down trees in the area that we're trying to remove some beavers is well over 100 that are visible that they've damaged already.
Okay.
And probably most of those are standing still.
And how many of those do you expect to bring down,
That'd be a hard number to say. We'd have to prioritize, ones that are close to the campsites. There's some on the backside of the playground and shower building area that are, I mean, they gotta be 100-year plus oak trees. I mean, they're probably this big around, 100 feet tall. And they're just starting to eat on those. So maybe not as priority on those trees, but the ones that are near the campsites that are pretty much ready to go, I mean, I think
Those will
if
come down.
it is going to be a time issue, then we probably should go with that route.
okay,
I agree.
all right, thank you.
Additional questions or comments? Great. Thank you again very much. Moving right along to 4C1 with Administrator Taylor. We've got one item to be presented for action. That's a request approval of quote for remodeling of portion of the jury assembly room of the Law and Justice Center. Might I have a motion to put this one on the floor for discussion? We have a motion from Vice Chair Soldner. Do we have a second? Second by Member Johnston. Administrator Taylor, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So this item has been approved through the annual budget. It was presented at Justice by Will Scanlon, who is also here tonight. He is the trial court administrator who is the project contact for this project. This work would remodel a portion of the jury assembly room that is on the fifth floor of the Law and Justice Center, and it would be renovating a specific space from coat closets that are rarely used, if ever, to a storage space for all of the materials that are necessary for juries.
Thank you very much. Comments or questions for Administrator Taylor? All right. Member Biles, please.
Did we get multiple bids on the project or just the one?
Yes, there were multiple bids on the project. Yes.
I do have one question if I could. All apologies, but I didn't see where it said the final amount. Did I miss that one? Aha, there we go. Of course, it's in the bold print. Thank you very much. Member Johnston. Oh, sorry. Vice Chair Solzner, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just curious, is this do we have something in some wiggle room in the budget for this, or will this come out of the
This was budgeted.
yeah, okay, thank you.
My question was, I'm assuming that the floor, the potential floor, we won't know until we've taken out the current storage to determine if we need to do anything to the floors. Underneath the base price, it mentioned the cost of new flooring is not included. If it's needed, the change order cost will be added. I'm assuming that we won't know the condition of the floor till we take the current cabinets out.
That is correct, but it is also anticipated that the new cabinets will be going over the existing
So-
space for the coat closets. So
So
there may
likely
not,
unnecessary.
likely not a need.
Okay.
Unless those floors are damaged and that is found out.
Okay, all right, they're concrete floors? Excellent, that's what I wanted to know, thank you.
Other comments or questions? Seeing none, voting on this one, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed? All right, the motion passes. Administrator Taylor, I would defer to you for any additional items to be presented for action or information.
I do have some information items to share this evening. The first being our animal control building. As you well know, this board has approved a new animal control shelter building to be built this year in conjunction with the Public Building Commission. Work has begun through the Public Building Commission to identify an architect and get started on that project. However, due to robust and great community partners, we were approached by the Bloomington Normal Water Reclamation District, who heard through public channels of our efforts to build the new building and also our difficulties with our current building being located on a floodplain very close to a creek and also having runoff from the adjacent fields. And so there was massive flooding last summer, and they felt the need to reach out and be good community partners with McLean County and have offered to donate 10 acres that is located in their farmland, and it's part farmland, part tree farm, which is about a mile from the current location right off of Shirley Road. And so they are going through the process with their board to complete a survey and see what kind of land they will be donating to us. And so I can't thank enough Mr. Irvin, the director of the the Bloomington Normal Water Reclamation District. I believe he was the cheerleader for this project, and so I can't thank him enough for his generosity and also the support of his board.
What absolutely incredible news. Thank you very much to the folks at the Bloomington Normal Water Reclamation District. Definitely something that I think this committee has been hoping for quite some time in having a great solution that would take our animal control building to a safer location.
Yes,
So
it's great news.
thank you so much for sharing that.
The second item I have to share is that we will be beginning very soon with the surveys of the employees in this building in the Government Center for our space study. So Charnett and Associates was contracted to do the spatial study for us. They've completed the group interviews with key partners and department heads, and now they're moving on to the actual survey portion, and that will be released very soon through our IT department to all the employees of this building to complete that. So that project is underway. And then lastly, there will be some requests for approval at the executive committee in relationship to the park bait shop building. So there are additional quotes that are being obtained for the floor work and the trenching for the IT cables and also some plumbing work with the water well. The one that will be presented this month through exec, I believe, is only the IT portion of that. And so that will be coming, it's presented as information as at this committee, but then due to ARPA funds being utilized for that project, it goes to the executive committee for action. And that is what I have for tonight.
Thank you very much. Comments or questions for Administrator Taylor? I am curious if I could, regarding the spatial study and the individual interview process, how long does that part take, and how much longer do we anticipate the whole of the fact-finding part to go until we get recommendations?
So the survey is being released to both county employees and City of Bloomington employees, and so I believe they will leave that survey out for a couple of weeks. Then that will take some time for the architects to compile that data into their report, and so I'm guessing in the next month or two, we will probably, is that on target? In the next month or two, we will have something from Charnett and Associates to mull over.
All right, more fantastic news. Thank you very much. And that brings us to our other business and communications. With this, we'd like to confirm that our next formal property meeting is on April 6th, 2023, but we have something very exciting happening in the meantime, and just wanted to confirm the date with everybody to let you know there will be a special session of the property committee, and that is our property tour, which is slated for Thursday, 3:30, so Thursday, March 30th, and just wanted to confirm and make sure that everyone is still available to participate. Administrative Assistant Morlock, do we have any particular updates or information or concerns that we should bring before the committee tonight as we confirm that date?
No, ma'am. I have also reached out to new members to see if there's anyone else that's interested in going, and I'm still getting responses back from them. And then I'm just following up on all the different pieces, so, no.
Thank you so much for everything that you have done, and thank you for all the department heads that have been confirming and getting this tour underway. This is a really valuable opportunity for the members of our community, or the members of our committee, as well as the new members of the board, to get an opportunity to see these properties that we interact and engage with on a monthly basis, and also to be able to be a little bit more planful in the future to see what our long-term strategies and goals might be for 2024 budget. All right, any other business or communications for the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much for your service to the county this evening. Have a wonderful evening and stay dry.